There is a degree of harmony, of intimacy, of coordination, of understanding between the people and government, between government and society, which just doesn't exist in anything like the same way in the West. So I would say, for example, that, you know, if you look at what's happened with regard to COVID-19, China, but also other Confucian-based societies have been, in varying degrees, very successful. And Western societies, with one small exception, namely New Zealand, have really done very badly. Now, some have done better than others, Germany, for example. But even in Germany's case, it's been much worse than what has happened in China. So I think that this relationship, this closeness between government and people, it has been absolutely crucial to what has been achieved. And the deeper reason for this, in the both contemporary sense and the historical sense of China, is that people see government in a different way to the way that happens in the West. They don't see it as a distant force, a distant body, a distant entity. They certainly don't see it as an enemy, which many Americans see government as the enemy, but rather they see the government as part of the family, the head of the family, traditional Confucian idea. And in this pandemic, I can think of no better example in the last several decades of why this matters, why it's so important, and what it can achieve. Obviously, in the case of China, but also in other countries as well. You know, let's forget Vietnam, South Korea, and so on, who also have done a very good job in relationship to the pandemic. I think that that in Western societies, it varies across Western societies. There's not one simple answer, but there is a general answer which I think is pretty universally applicable. And that is, in the Western societies, there's a very powerful emphasis on the individual, on individual rights. You know, constantly in the UK during this period of the pandemic and so on, people, especially on the right wing of politics, have emphasized the importance of individual freedom. The job of government is not to tell us what to do, and so on. And so there is a line drawn in the mind of what government can do and what government can't do. And that is very different from China, where that line does not exist in the same way, because they are not regarded as separate in the way that they are regarded in the West. So in China, there is this familial relationship between the individual, society, and government, and you could never say that in the West. I can't think of any Western government, Western society, where you could make the same equation. In Beijing, there was an outbreak several months ago, and they tested it, and they traced it to a particular, very rapidly to a very localized situation, and then they immediately tested over 1 million people. And this is the way that China has dealt with these kind of outbreaks. And I think that, I mean, that's such an interesting example of how there is this, you know, the local government in this case, local government and the people are in step with each other. You know, they understand the situation. So the government's job is to identify the situation and then decide on a strategy, test huge numbers of people, and the people expect government to behave like that and respond to government initiative and leadership of that kind. And this is terrific, isn't it? I mean, this is a tremendous example of what happens when a government and a people are in tune with each other.